speakers and panels coming up. First, we're going to kick it off with a very important element for social, which is how to do things new and different, innovation. And for a great discussion about that, I'm going to welcome Fergus Hay, Worldwide Managing Director of Ogilvy and Mather, who's going to have a discussion with SingTel, Olivier from SingTel. Fergus.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. All right, come on, now we're going. So today we're going to talk about innovations, and I'm delighted to be joined by one of the most curious, energetic, well-traveled guys I've come across, Olivier Carnohan. He told me to pronounce his name Carnohan because it's like driving a car with no hands. Without that, I would have been lost without a shadow of a doubt. Olivier has led an extraordinary life. He has studied in Paris, he's studied in Boston at MIT as well as at Harvard, and he's based himself in Singapore with a career over the last 16 years spanning across businesses from North America to Asia. What I'm really most interested in discussing with Olivier today is his views on how we can be the most innovative. He has held the job at SingTel as the CEO of SoftBank Innoventures, but most interestingly, his current title is as Intrapreneur of Emerging Businesses at SingTel. So please join me in giving him an enormous whelping, Olivier Carnohan. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
All right.
I have to start with a really straightforward question. When I read your profile on LinkedIn, I thought there was a typo. Because normally you read entrepreneur, and I thought intrapreneur. What is an intrapreneur? So help me not look so foolish in front of these people and explain to me what an intrapreneur is.
Yeah. There's no typo. No worries about that. You read all right. I'm paid to be curious. That's the most beautiful job in the world. I'm paid to be curious in the areas of financial services, education, healthcare, retail, transport, and logistics. So when I recruit someone, part of the Intrapreneurs team, emerging businesses, I'm looking for two things. Are you curious? And do you have the power to stay in SingTel?
And what are you finding? Are people curious enough?
People are curious. People in our region are very curious. People like to disrupt. I like to have people who don't really fit the telco DNA because we're moving to not be a telco. And people are curious about, we have assets, how can we leverage but not be constrained by them? I'll give you an example.
Please.
Car insurance. Many of you today in this room are probably paying a car insurance because of your age, your gender, the type of car you're driving, but not necessarily the amount you're driving or how well you're driving. With your consent, we can actually see how far you drive, how much, and how well you drive. Why isn't your car insurance tailored to you rather than tailored to a table that was designed 50 years ago? We can do stuff like that.
And now, have you noticed that curiosity as a theme amongst people is getting stronger and stronger over time? Do you feel like the younger generation are demonstrating as much curiosity as you would believe that they need to?
Definitely. The internet generation, take a look at, for instance, businesses that have been built on curiosity. Some of them are huge. Let me ask you this. Actually, let me ask the audience this. Please raise your hands, those of you who feel that you're curious. Raise your hand if you feel you're curious, intellectually curious, curious about different things in lives. I can see in the audience there is
reluctant curiosity. There's reluctant curiosity.
There's a pocket of curiosity over here, and I don't see a lot of curiosity over there. So curiosity, I see about 65% of the population here think they're curious. Now, please raise your hands if you think you're curious. Not shy, curious. 75. Okay, keep your hand up if you're non-Asian and you tried the weird buffet in the back. Yeah, it's more like 40%. So about 80% of the people feel they're curious, but actually when you look at stats, only 40% are intellectually curious.
And how are you deploying this curiosity at SingTel at the moment?
So the team of intrapreneurs, they look at our assets, we look at organic and inorganic growth, and we ask ourselves, with what we know about people, their behaviors on their mobile, what industry can we disrupt? So we can disrupt insurance, education. Let me take an example that's really close to my heart. That's wonderful. You're flipping the classrooms, and you have a young child, and I hope that when your child goes to school, it will be the new model. Away from a teacher-centric world, I know, I tell you, you shut up, from flipping the classrooms and having students teach each other. So I really hope that the grade from your child will be predicated on how curious your child is and how your child can collaborate with other children in the room to talk about, say, tadpoles.
I hope he has some smart friends, otherwise he's in real trouble.
Yes. Well, his friends will actually be Asian-wide. It's no longer restricted to these four walls.
So to play that back, what you're saying is, in the modern generation, there'll be technologies and a behavior of sharing information that allows them to be as strong as smart as their mind is curious.
Curiosity and information technology unlocks that. Some of the biggest businesses have been unlocked through that. If you look at it, I think curiosity is more important than knowledge. If you look at knowledge, it's a point in time. It's what you're given at this point in time. I was taught there were 9 planets. Now I need to be curious because that is evolving. If you take 100 when I graduate, in fact, over time, maybe 20 or 30% of that, 20 years later, will be obsolete or incorrect. Plus, there'll be 1,000 more that will have been created since. To bridge the delta between 60 and 1,000, you need to be curious.
Now, there's no point having one curious entrepreneur at a massive corporation like SingTel. You must be trying to create a culture of curiosity amongst the business. How are you doing that?
Well, when you look at it, I have team members in Australia, I have team members here in Singapore, we have friends of friends all throughout Asia. You go to all these conferences to try to get curious people to come to each other. When you're curious, the beautiful thing is that you're an extrovert. You're going to go to others and ask questions about your profile, background, and all of that. They coalesce. Curious people coalesce.
And how can you use them to infect others around them? Because not everyone can be the type A curious identity.
Interestingly enough, you have businesses that have been built, I mean, multi-billion-dollar businesses that have been built, and some startups recently have been built around creating the right infocoms to help people be curious. I'll give you an example of a company called Mu Sigma, for instance. What they do is that they have created an exoskeleton around consultants that when they step into a business like Walmart, say, they help Walmart ask the right questions to arrive to uncovering the right value. In fact, about 96% of the clients repeats business every time. So clients do see value there. All they do is they've created that curiosity DNA. It's that exoskeleton to go around the people so that when you step into an account, you've got infocoms technology behind, you can ask the right questions.
That's very interesting because we had the CEO of SurveyMonkey in this morning who was also talking about the power of questionnaires to drive insights based on curiosity. So clearly curiosity is an engine. It's something that's going to drive us forwards. Where do you think it's going to take us?
Well, for me, I see this infocom supported curious people. So it's going to be a man-meet machine type of things that's going to come and disrupt several fields. The fields that we're betting on at SingTel is going to be education, flipping the classrooms. It's going to be healthcare. It's moving from transforming you as patients to actually being healthy citizens. So it's around prolonging wellness rather than dealing with you when you're ill. That makes sense. It's about financial services. It's about what is your identity? How do I think about identity? It's very different. How do I build trust? Trust is new currency. Hey, I would say curiosity is new currency. I would say knowledge is something you buy today. It's a purchase. But currency, curiosity, it's priceless. It's the currency that helps you buy the knowledge at any point throughout your career.
And what do you think in the world, in the corporate world that you see at the moment, or the consumer world, who do you think is representing curiosity in its strongest? Who identifies it for you?
I like Google. I think when you look at Google, actually, they have uncovered curiosity for people. It's that search engine that helped people, a little bit like Microsoft did, where do you want to go today?
Yeah.
I like that tagline, but Google was all about, here's a white box, this is the world. Aren't you curious?
Yeah.
Ask me questions.
I feel like the human nature has become so much more self-empowered to find information since technology has become so personal. And actually, I think that allows us to search information on a daily basis. This morning, when we were listening to the music, I was immediately finding out about the artist and downloading his album. Something I would have been unable to do 20 years ago. Immediately, I wanted it.
You want a job?
Yeah, you're offering, don't tell Ogilvy. And so, if you were to look on the horizons, what do you think are the targets that we should be aiming for in terms of curiosity? Because not everyone can invest in infrastructures and technologies like SingTel can. But what can we get our people who work with us to focus on from a curiosity perspective?
Hire them curious from the start. I mean, that's one thing.
How do you identify that? How do you find?
Well, ask them, where have you traveled? What are you reading?
Yeah.
And get out of the usual knowledge-based questions during recruiting.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what you know today. I don't even care who you know, actually. What I want to know is, how did you arrive to the knowledge that you have today? And you have someone who tells me, I devour blogs before my breakfast. I am constantly tethered to my tweets. I travel to areas. I have friends who are artists, painters, sculptors. I find that person to be curious. And I will know that 2 years down the line, if I recruit that person for, say, financial services, when financial services have moved on, that person's knowledge will still be current.
You know, when I've met some of the most creative people in my industry and in other mainstream industries, what I've found about the creative brain is they're like a sponge, and they're permanently looking for influence and for inspiration in order to create the next innovation. It could be technology, it could be a creative idea, it could be music. So it feels to me like we need to encourage the younger generation and our generation to continually bring information in to inspire them. That's what will propel us forwards.
And then the organization that they're joining needs to be ready for this. Because if you look at it, you're going to have a lot of management committees and boards who have been wired and who have succeeded to think in a very sequential way, in a very logical manner, and curiosity sometimes has to go in all very different directions.
Are there 3 tips you can give to the people in the audience on what they can do to become more curious?
To become more curious is you've got to go and have friends and family members who are from very, very different horizons, and do spend time with them. Some of the most innovative thoughts that we've had in SingTel and the different organizations I've joined were reached when we were talking to people from very different industries.
So
talk to poets.
Talk to people.
Talk to people who are very different.
Okay. What else can
Okay, we have an innovation center where we bring people from very different industries all the time. And I make a point that when I have someone from the financial services industry, I take them around all the different areas of our business. I want them to see our innovation in drones. I want to see our innovations in education, in healthcare, in my business. I want them to see all of the other things. And you have no idea. They sometimes pay more time and more attention to, say, the education or the retail presence. People are curious.
It's clear that this is the human behavior that is going to propel innovation and all of our future. And what I'm hearing you saying is, don't forget the importance of human relationships and what you can learn from a dialogue, rather than continually relying on interacting over technology. And then use your sources, your blogs, your information sources, your news sources, your opinion leaders to try and inspire your brain as much as possible. And I guess there's probably a courage and bravery piece here. You need to be brave enough to follow your curious path rather than following the set.
But that's the trick with curiosity, is that it's extremely valuable. It's the new currency. But as like any currency, it's going to cost you. And there's an exchange. There is an exchange between the current currency. There's an exchange rate of currency between the current currency, which is knowledge. But if you're ahead of your time and you think curiosity is the new currency, there is this exchange rate. And today, exchange rate is a little disfavorable. But if you stay ahead of the curve, make sure you're curious, and then you're going to have, sometimes you'll fall completely flat, sometimes you have enormous success like Google. But I really believe this is worth trying.
So go forth, be curious, be brave, don't be shy.
It's the new currency. It's going to cost you for a while, but it does mean it's valuable.
Olivier Carnohan, everyone. Thank you very much. Fantastic.